Hey, welcome to another episode of White Lithium Eurotrash. You guys are going to see I'm wearing a new shirt today. This is a railroad workers shirt I bought in Japan, in Tokyo. Beautiful kind of heavy duty shirt. The Japanese just do things so beautifully. I don't know why Japanese cars don't touch me, but they don't. So the suspension components, I got one of them in. Let's take a look at that. I got the center drag link for the BMW in. I need another car to drive. I'm ready for this BMW to move on. So this was the offending part, as you recall, and I found the correct one, reasonably priced in Germany from Wallet and Nesch. What a great company. So great, I've decided to also do the tie rod ends, which are going to be here tomorrow. So yeah, so we're gonna be, and at that point I should be able to drive it, but the brake master cylinder is a little sketchy, so we're gonna try and do that today. This part was relatively easy to acquire. I got one from ATE, that's the OEM, and I'm probably gonna put some fresh belts on also. All right, without further ado, let's get started. Just because it's annoying me, I'm going to go ahead and just remove the God damn. Well, you're gonna make me use heat again? They're going to. Gonna have to use the old heat. That stinks. You know, what a pain in the freaking butt. These things are on here really, really tight. Normally I like things tight, but not this tight. What am I gonna do? All right. Let's see. There we go. Whoo! Now we're cooking with gas. You want to hear something really interesting? So these parts that I needed, the center steering linkage and these tie rod ends and everything else were actually listed as available on FCP Euro, but with a 4 to 6 week lead time. They were listed as available for, I think, $260, okay, for the center linkage, okay? And on Wallet and Nesch, this German BMW, vintage BMW specialist website, the part that was $260 on FCP Euro was 70 euros. And for 70 euros, it also arrives like in 5 days. It's just like incredible. So FCP Euro is just buying the parts from like Wallet and Nesch and marking them up, just explosively marking up the cost of the price of the parts. All right, let's pull this bad boy out of here. There we go. Here's the offending linkage. You can see what a mess this garage is. I'm absolutely outgrowing my space. And I have so many parts sitting around. It's imperative that I actually, get a better part storage system, or just actually get parts installed quickly onto cars, because they, it's hard to keep track of which parts go to which cars, because a lot of times they look really in similar packaging and so on and so forth. So this is the offending piece right here. Wow, that was just completely gone. That thing is like completely gone. The beautiful thing is that this suspension and steering on this car is so well designed that the car didn't wobble. It really didn't. Now the one side is actually not that bad, but okay. Now these tie rod ends, if I was that kind of person, I would probably sell these on eBay, because they might be good enough for somebody, but because these tie rod ends Again, FCP Euro wanted, for original BMW, they wanted $260 a piece for these complete tie rod assembly, rather, not just the end. And on Wallace and Nash, it was, which I'm sure is the same as the OEM part, I think was like 80 euros or something. Yeah, you can get this entire setup right here from them, I think for 250 euros, which is a great deal. Let's just go and compare the new part to the old part. Yep. Identical. Good. Very good. I don't think that this piece is actually adjustable. Let's see. Curious whether. Why? Oh, you gave me some new cotter pins? Thank you. That's really nice. Yeah, this is, even though it looks like it's threaded, you would think it would be adjustable. It's not. These are crimped on. They set it to the length, then crimp these so it's permanently fixed. If you can see how stiff that is. Wow. Wow. Just great. Just great for me to have the real parts. You know, I just would never feel good going to all this work and putting these back on. You know, it's like, I just don't want to have, even though technically these seem pretty good, the boots even seem in pretty good shape, I don't know. It's worth it to me. I'll always do the parts. Okay, most of my audience here is obviously very astute from an automotive standpoint. But, you know, this is a brake master cylinder. When you push the pedal, and a clutch is basically the same thing. When you push the pedal, it applies force here to some seals, and you have two circuits, one for the front, one for the rear, and it pressurizes the fluid, which goes into down to your calipers, and that, you know, fluid pressure, it has the larger diameter of the pistons inside of the calipers, and it grips on your rotors, okay? But if this car has the symptom, okay, so if you're squeezing on your pedal and you think your brakes are like reasonably bled, right? If you're squeezing on your pedal and like you push it a few times and like you can get it firm, you know, a lot of times like it kind of means that, or if you're at a light and you have your foot on the brakes and like it just like, it's like the brakes keep falling away from you. A lot of times what that means is the master cylinder is a problem. You know, the fluid's going somewhere, right? You have in between the piston, which is in here, and then the line goes down here out to your brake caliper. It's a closed system, right? Well, there's nowhere, unless the brake fluid's leaking on the ground, you know it's in there somewhere. So what's happening is that it's bypassing the seal. The seal has perished and it's just kind of leaking between, you know, from back to the reservoir or into the other circuit for the other brakes. And yeah, so hopefully I don't have to do too much disassembly, but you can tell here that brake fluid is quite caustic, right? And it takes paint off. Look at how this beautiful original, I don't know, what is the word for this? This is it's a diaphragm, it's a pressure amplifier. You know, still from 1980, has the original BMW label on it, but see how the paint has come off down there? That's because it's been, you know, seeping out fluid past the seals. So we are going to suction out this fluid and we'll see what we get. Okay, we're going to use my beloved Mighty Vac suction tool, Venturi driven suction tool, to get the fluid out of here, because of course it's got to go somewhere. So let's suck it out. Oh, that's making quick work out of that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just like the bottom of a milkshake. Oh, let's get that out of there. Interesting. This, I think, must just keep, this little component here must keep the fluid from sloshing around inside. It's like a baffle maybe inside of this reservoir. That would be my theory, or some sort of thing to catch big chunks. It has a very small hole in the bottom of it. All right, there we go. Let's get it all out of there. See if I can get over. Hey, good. Now I have to go in and disconnect the plethora of, brake lines going into the master cylinder, and I will use a line wrench, which I have this beautiful set, which I'm gonna, made by the Wright Corporation out of Ohio. These are American made. I highly recommend Wright wrenches. I highly recommend you take a look at the Wright company, see how this, don't go in there, like these things, you round one of these things off, you're gonna have a really bad day, okay? So this is gonna give you so much more purchase on that hex than a standard box end open wrench. Let's see how hard they are to get off. See how much I'm gonna leak. Oh, nice. A quality automobile like this, you can just, things are kind of torqued right. And this engine compartment is so beautifully free from corrosion. In fact, this car, just in general, is very beautifully free from corrosion. But if I don't get this brake fluid to stop leaking, it's going to be corroding like crazy over here on this side of the engine compartment. The thing, I really need to get going and drive this car, because if I can't drive the car, well, I can't figure out what else is going to be the next thing that goes wrong with it. With a car that's sat for as long as this, it's going to be kind of a snowball. It'll be one thing after another. Let's put a rag down here so I don't spill any more brake fluid onto this poor little bit of frame. Awful, awful brake fluid. Because basically everything on the car that's rubber is gonna be at risk of needing eventual replacement. Oh, tell me you're not gonna make me unscrew 6 of these things 20 degrees at a time. Well, that would be my... Oh, and we're getting slippery over here. Oh, now you're on there tight. Right. Wow. The original master cylinder. I didn't want to do it, but I'm going to actually be smart and just get this coolant reservoir out of the way. And I'm going to suck all this coolant out of here. I'm going to suck all the coolant out of this coolant reservoir and just move it out of the way. That way I can have more access. It's like, why fight the obvious reality of the situation? Now you can see that I have a much, much, much better access to these line nuts. And one of the things I always think about that I'm sure you guys think about too is when you work on an old car like this is just this idea that when you're taking off one of these nuts, this is something some guy in Munich in 1980, maybe even 1979, tightened these up. And they haven't been touched since. And for me, I don't know. I feel like that's part of what's magical about working with the car. I sit and I think about what the world was like in 1980. And I think about, what is that guy doing now? Is he alive? Who is he? And I feel this incredible sense of communion with the person who tightened that fitting originally. that it's like we're touching the same thing, reaching across centuries. Well, not centuries, but I was thinking, you know, if you've seen that like movie on Netflix, Cave of Forgotten Dreams, where there's the, you know, 20,000-year-old handprints on the side of the cave in France. And that's kind of the same experience of working on an old car. Every nut was a handprint left on the cave wall of an engineer or a technician or an assembler, that you get to commune with them and think about what was going on through, what was the world like through their eyes. Okay. Well, now would be a good chance to actually look at my master cylinder and make sure it's kind of exactly the same. Looks good. Okay. This is going to be a slow haul because there's a lot of stuff to disassemble here. Going to try and just very gently work this out of here, because I feel like there is a sort of extant chance of breaking the plastic. I want to pop that reservoir off to give me more space. Some of these fittings have been kind of loose. Okay, now we can really see down in here. Just be so gentle when you're pulling that off and suck out all the fluid. Even with as much as I sucked out, I still spilled some, and I didn't want to do that. Some of these hydraulic fittings on this master cylinder were, frankly, surprisingly loose, but now it's time to actually remove it. We're going to carefully try and do that. Look at these are a little bit corroded on here. Good how they give you, oh, he's going to make me use a universal joint. Hang on. Okay, so a couple observations. Getting quite a bit of fluid leaking through into the pressure amplifier. And I think potentially a big part of our problem here was that the O-ring was completely compressed here, and we were allowing some leakage into there. Interesting. Let's look over here. A couple observations. Let's look at the tooling marks. We have a 23. I don't know if you can see that. There's a 23 on the foundry mark right there. A 36. And on the original one, we do not have a foundry mark there. ATE. Slightly different logo, but ATE, obviously. See OEM. I mean, I'll tell you what, here we have XX, okay, and here we have nothing. So I bet this was made on the original tooling, this casting right here. And this casting has been made on tooling which has been retooled 5 times, at least. Okay, so if you look at this O-ring right here, it is completely flattened. All right, so that means that if we're getting oil, which is leaking past the seals here, it is going to allow it to leak out around the edge of there, which is exactly what we were seeing. Hence the corrosion going down here. Well, quite a bit of fluid getting sucked out of here. Man, we're doing a lot more sucking of fluid than I thought we would be today. eventually I'm going to invest in a full-size compressor. I've been putting it off because I pretty much use compressed air just for this purpose. Sucking and blowing, I don't, like everyone else in the world, I don't use air tools anymore. Okay, now it's time to just get the new one back in. Might even dab a little paint around this later. Oh, and then it's going to be about bleeding, isn't it? Lots and lots of bleeding. I dabbed a little spray paint over the little rusted area there on the pressure amplifier. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start the car, and I'm just going to press on the brakes a few times. Okay. Starts right up. Beautiful. Alright. Yeah, we're just gonna give those a couple pumps before we even start bleeding it. Okay. Don't wanna. Got a good amount of. I can see it, you know, if you look over there, I can see it sucking it in. Alright, let's just kind of. Okay, time to bleed. Now we're going to start bleeding. Obviously, we're going to start at the far corner. I think, I'm not totally sure that it exactly matters all the time, but we'll do it anyways. I love how you have somebody, quote unquote, go through the calipers and not put new rotors on this thing. Come on, give me a break. It's ridiculous. We will once again be using the power of suction. I have my Hazet brake bleeder, which is the same as whatever. There's a million of these things that are all the same. And let's see here. Let's suck it. There we go. Suck some fluid. Getting better. Using this nice set of Hazet bleed wrenches. You don't really need a bleed wrench on this particular caliper, but these things are so handy. Okay, so the front calipers have a different size bleed screw, so I get to use a different one of my little wrenches, and it will really come in handy over here because the front calipers have a redundant safety feature with dual brake lines coming to them, so you have to bleed it twice on the front calipers. And doing this while the steering linkage is off is awesome because I can twist it all the way over and get really good access to both of these bleed screws. That's why it's a really good time to do both these jobs at the same time. Hey, so I basically got it bled acceptably well, but I wanted to make a quick point if by chance anybody else is trying to bleed a, you know, older BMW or a BMW 528i. This manual, the Haynes manual, is really a poor manual, especially compared to some of the Bentley manuals that I have over here, but the one key point I would make is when you look at this caliper, you should do them in this sequence. The one on top 1, the inboard 1 2, and the outboard 1 3. So on the front calipers, it is pretty important to bleed them in that sequence in order to get a good result. And with that, I am signing off from this titillating episode of White Lithium Eurotrash. And in the next episode, which might be tomorrow, we will finally be driving this thing. And that's going to be awesome. But I don't know. You know, it's like I'm already looking at this. I'm like, do I feel good about even using these rotors? But whatever. I'm going to drive it for a little bit, see what else breaks. I cleaned it up underneath. I need to figure out where some leaks are coming from on the underside. And, you know, we'll drive it for a bit and take it from there. Peace out.